The story begins with people isolated in their own world, using phones and devices while ignoring those around them. In the middle of this, an old man writes a complicated math equation on the pavement outside a hospital. As he finishes, he notices a young woman inside a bus. The woman, Tsukiko Sagi, also sees him just before the bus moves, revealing graffiti with a strange message. Tsukiko works at a company that creates mascot characters. She previously designed a popular character called Moromi. Now, her boss wants her to come up with a new one, but she struggles. Later that night, while walking home, Tsukiko talks to her stuffed Moromi. She becomes scared after a strange encounter with a homeless woman. While gathering her belongings after falling, she suddenly gets attacked. At her office, people grow worried. A news report confirms Tsukiko was assaulted. At the hospital, detectives Ikari and Maniwa question her. Ikari is strict, but Maniwa is kind. Tsukiko draws a picture of the attacker, a middle school boy with a red cap and a bent golden bat. Elsewhere, a reporter named Kawazu argues with a man whose father he hit with a car. The man wants money for hospital bills. Kawazu claims he will pay after publishing a new article. As he sees the detectives, he tries to get information but fails. He tricks a nurse into revealing the victim's hospital room number, 510. The detectives talk about Tsukiko's story in their car. Maniwa finds her strange but believes her. Ikari remains doubtful and suspects it could be made up. They make a small bet about it. Outside, the final answer to the old man's math problem is also revealed, 510. Kawazu starts digging for information about Tsukiko. He looks through public records, browses questionable websites, and visits her workplace. As the media spreads the story, people become obsessed. The attacker is given a name, Lil Slugger. Ikari and Maniwa interview locals. One mentions a small homeless woman who might have seen something, but when the detectives search her spot, she's gone. Kawazu is there instead, and he secretly pockets something. At her apartment, Tsukiko sees support messages turning into hate online. She becomes stressed, but Moromi comforts her. This moment feels normal to her, even though Moromi seems alive. The next day, Tsukiko, using a crutch, meets Kawazu. He shows her the drawing he stole and asks questions. She agrees to an interview. At a restaurant, he praises her and brings up office jealousy. Tsukiko panics when kids skate by, then remembers the attacker had golden inline skates. That night, Kawazu visits her apartment. During a call demanding money, he hangs up when he sees her. He follows her, but Lil Slugger appears and hits him. As Kawazu lies unconscious, Lil Slugger greets Tsukiko and skates away. Later, at the station, Maniwa reminds Ikari about their bet. A headline confirms the second attack. Now it's clear the case is real, and Lil Slugger is no longer just a rumor. Yuichi Taira, also called Ichi, has it all. He's top of his class, crushes it in sports, and everyone knows his name. With golden skates and that confident smile, he moves through life like it's his stage. But everything starts to shift. People at school begin to ignore him. He finds a note in his locker calling him Lil Slugger. The news describes the real attacker, and the details match his look too well. Whispers spread fast, and people start thinking he's guilty. Ichi gets frustrated. He blames a quiet student named Ushiyama, or Ushi. Ushi's smart but not athletic, and Ichi can't stand that he dares to run against him in the student council election. Ichi convinces himself Ushi is behind the rumors, trying to steal the spotlight. As the bullying grows, so does Ichi's anger. In his mind, Ushi turns into a monster who keeps laughing at him. While this goes down, detectives Ikari and Maniwa are digging into a similar case. They question Tsukiko, but she's hard to deal with. Ikari even tries talking through her stuffed toy, Moromi, hoping it helps. She misunderstands, and things get tense. They eventually learn the victim is stable. Back at school, Ichi feels like a ghost. No one looks at him. He tries finding comfort in his tutor, Harumi Chono. She's kind and worried, but he refuses to open up. Letting an adult help feels like surrender. One day, Ichi snaps and confronts Ushi, accuses him of spreading the rumors. Someone catches it on camera. Not long after, everyone in class gets the photo of Ichi shouting at Ushi. The teacher loses it over phones. Ushi stands and says Ichi is the one being bullied. Instead of helping, it messes with Ichi's head even more. He thinks Ushi is mocking him again. The detectives keep moving. They ask around the neighborhood. People mention Ichi looking like Lil Slugger. His election posters get trashed. The detectives pull Ichi in for questioning. He says he doesn't know Tsukiko. They tell him he's not a suspect. His teacher confirms he's being bullied. Ichi holds on to hope that things will finally cool down. He starts dreaming of a birthday party. Friends, cake, celebration. But reality hits hard. Only his mom and Harumi show up. The investigation hasn't helped. It's just made things worse. Angry and crushed, he throws away his golden skates. On his way home, Ushi walks up, calm and kind. He shares how he's been bullied too. But Ichi doesn't feel comforted. He feels even more bitter. In his mind, he sees Lil Slugger smash Ushi while he stands tall as the hero. Then, out of nowhere, the real Lil Slugger appears and hits Ushi for real. Ichi runs after him, thrilled, forgetting about the bleeding kid on the ground. Lil Slugger disappears into the night. At home, Tsukiko sees the news. She thinks she's seen Lil Slugger before, but Moromi tells her to let it go. The detectives visit Ushi at the hospital. On their way in, they pass an old man scribbling the number 1. Ichi stays locked in his room, glued to old tapes of his golden days. Election day arrives. His mother tries to pull him out of bed, but in his head, everyone blames him for what happened to Ushi. His thoughts twist. The world turns dark, faces blur, voices scream. Then Lil Slugger shows up and hits him. Everything fades into black. A sex worker named Maria gets up from the bed just as her client, the otaku, finishes and starts rambling about how the whole thing reminds him of his anime figure collection. She doesn't react, just grabs her things and heads out. On the street, she calls her boss to check in. He tells her she's got one more client tonight, a man named Mr. Hirokawa. She hangs up and keeps walking. The camera shifts to a wall covered in escort service ads. Up top, the episode title is printed over the photo of a seductive woman and a list of prices and services. Later, Maria walks into her apartment, quiet and tired. She presses play on her answering machine and lets the messages roll while she moves around, trying to unwind. But then a voice starts in her head. It's Harumi, her other self, pleading for everything to stop, begging to be left alone. Maria doesn't answer. She just drops onto the couch, too drained to care, and drifts off. The next day, the news reporter speaks of Ichi being another of Lil Slugger's victim. The detectives are baffled by these events. Harumi does her daily duties to work, but then goes to see a doctor about her condition. The doctor explains to her that she has a split personality, and Maria is the side of her that wants to have fun. Later that night, she has another episode. The next day, her superior asks her to marry him and she agrees, but later that night, she is seen with Hirokawa. She tells him that she is getting married and this will be her last time sleeping with him. She throws all of Maria's clothing away. Harumi and her fiancé share a romantic boat ride. Just then, she gets a call from one of her sugar daddies. Embarrassed, she confronts herself but ends up going right back into prostitution. However, she finally gets married and tries to dispose of all of Maria's clothing, but to no avail. A few nights later, she is tormented by both sides and screams out in anger. Suddenly, she gets attacked by Lil Slugger. She wakes up at the hospital with her husband beside her. The detectives are more frustrated that another attack happened and they are unable to get a statement. Later, the media reports that Hirokawa has arrested Lil Slugger while Moromi urges Sagi to get back to work. Later, a couple discovers an unconscious girl lying on the road. They check her and find out she is still alive. This situation connects to a bigger case involving a series of strange incidents. Reporters soon discuss a pattern. The victims seem to have some kind of personal or professional connection. For example, Kawazu had a reason to be close to Sagi, trying to gather information. However, no clear link ties Sagi and Kawazu directly with Ichi and Hiromi, although Ichi and Hiromi shared a teacher-student relationship. Sagi watches this news with interest. Meanwhile, at a police station, 3 men, 2 officers and a man named Hirakawa, talk about the case. The younger officer points out how the connections between people make the case more complex. The older officer replies that finding these links is part of their job. He also praises the attacker sketch that Sagi drew. Before leaving the station, Hirakawa stops the chief. They briefly chat, and Hirakawa is seen smoking. The chief mentions he thought Hirakawa had quit smoking. Then they talk about Hiromi, who used to tutor a boy named Yuichi and also worked at GI University. Hirakawa sneezes and jokes about his allergies. The chief then says he heard Hirakawa is building his dream home and working hard for his family. A short scene shows Hirakawa's house under construction. Later, Hirakawa meets Honda, one of Maria's past clients. He shares that Hiromi hid her past life in prostitution. Honda pays Hirakawa to keep quiet about his own past. Hirakawa laughs and accepts the money, saying it covers his expenses for the day, but he now needs a new prostitute. When a prostitute later calls him Mr., Hirakawa snaps and demands to be called Daddy, the same name Maria once used. He's then seen reading manga before being pulled into a car by another man. The man praises him for looking after Honda. Hirakawa nods nervously. The man informs him about Honda's upcoming marriage and demands 2 million yen as a gift. Hirakawa resists, but the man reminds him of the financial help Honda gave for the house. Hirakawa later robs an old woman wearing a mask to get the money. He returns with 1 million yen, but the man now asks for 3 million, saying Honda is hospitalized. When Hirakawa refuses, the man burns his forehead with a cigarette. Afterward, Hirakawa attempts another robbery, but this time he sees Maria, and it turns out to be a dream. At the police station, officers hear about robberies happening in other areas by a masked man. Hirakawa continues robbing people while manga plays in the background. He pleads with the man, saying he doesn't want to do this anymore. But the man demands 5 million yen now and gives him a pill to remove his fear. After taking it, Hirakawa becomes more aggressive, even quoting manga during robberies. One couple pleads with him, saying they saved for 20 years to buy a house. Their daughter sees Hirakawa and screams. Later, he's found laughing alone in a park, repeating manga lines. The chief finds him and takes him to a beer shop. There, he sees a girl's bag and lies, saying it's his daughter's. When the chief asks why people commit crimes, Hirakawa responds that there are many reasons. The chief quietly agrees. Full of grief, Hirakawa cries for a way out. Suddenly, Lil Slugger appears and knocks him out. However, he is surprised when Hirakawa gets back up. Lil Slugger tries to run but is knocked out by Hirakawa's shoe. Later, Hirakawa is praised as a hero by the media. Two detectives interrogate a boy named Makoto Kozuka, believed to be Lil Slugger. He is a second-year student from Minami Junior High. He admits he is responsible and says he never meant for things to get out of hand. He speaks in a strange way, calling himself a holy warrior with a mission to defeat a dark force named Goma. His words drift between reality and fantasy, making it difficult for the detectives to understand what he truly believes. Makoto claims he is trying to save people. He begins to describe events as if they happened in a storybook. He talks about a dark cave, evil energy, and glowing red light around his victims, which he says only he can see. In his view, his bat becomes a golden sword, his rollerblades turn into golden shoes, and the tunnel becomes a cave where monsters hide. His descriptions match scenes from a fantasy storybook the chief later examines. At Shashiyama Station, Makoto points out where he was attacked. The chief reads from the storybook and finds a character known as the Ancient Master, who must be obeyed. Makoto seems unable to separate this fantasy from the real world. The younger detective begins noticing similarities between Makoto's story and the events from the book. The chief, annoyed by the nonsense, sends him out to buy cigarettes. Makoto responds that Goma has taken over the chief's body. Suddenly, both detectives are pulled into Makoto's imagined world. A giant monster attacks, and Makoto jumps in to protect the chief. The younger detective, now seeing himself as a character named Manin, plays along to learn more. Makoto explains that Goma has not yet revealed his true form. He says they need to find a strange place called the Ancient Sign. Inside the tower, they meet the Ancient Master, who looks like an old man from the hospital. The master speaks in riddles. Makoto replies confidently, saying he saved the green frog using a white cube. Manin believes the master's words could relate to real victims. A glowing butterfly appears. Makoto takes this as a sign that Goma has captured a princess. Manin says the book hints that the princess is Harumi Chono. Just then, Goma arrives wearing the moon sapphire. He offers to return the princess if he receives the ruby. In the real world, Rumi, Harumi's alter ego, visits the same location and quietly confirms Makoto is Lil Slugger. When asked about him, she denies knowing him and says nothing about the butterfly. Back in the fantasy, Makoto says the princess's castle has moved, but believes he can find it with a map. While walking, the chief steps on a frog named Kawaju from the book. In real life, a man in a frog costume appears and confirms Makoto's identity. Manin then tells Makoto he was once possessed by Goma and was saved by Lil Slugger. The frog informs them the princess has been taken east and the journey continues. They end up in a castle where Makoto and the detectives confront the princess, who is believed to be possessed by Goma. After a fierce battle with the princess, a portal opens, and Makoto attacks and defeats the princess, who later turns into Harumi. A monster also comes out the portal, smashing Makoto, ending the game and angering Ikari. Maniwa drags Ikari to the alleyway, where they meet an old woman. A strong storm hits the city while Harumi walks through a mall. At the same time, a young girl appears distressed and lost in thought. Soon, the story shifts to two detectives who are speaking with an elderly woman. They do not suspect her of any crime, but ask her for some information. The woman explains that her family fell apart after her son-in-law died. Her granddaughter, Midori, lives with her aunt now, but she has also run away. The woman hopes to see her granddaughter again one day. The young girl is then shown again. She remembers being bullied by two boys in the past and how her father rescued her. As the detectives continue their investigation, they learn more about the girl. Her name is Taiko. She clearly cares deeply about her father and still holds on to those memories. However, the chief interrupts her and insists she focus only on the night Saji was attacked. Taiko says the girl was alone, with no one around her. Later, Taiko visits a game store and tries to win a mother-themed toy. The moment makes her emotional as she recalls her father giving her endless chances to play the same game in the past. Angrily, she lashes out at the caller, accusing them of lying and wishing they would vanish. Back with the detectives, the old woman reveals more important details. A gust of wind blows away their tent, adding tension to the scene. Manawa and the chief discuss Makoto, who they believe is just a copycat rather than the original attacker. Meanwhile, Tayako is seen taking a picture with her mother. Her friends invite her out, but she declines, saying it's a special day. In her room, she creates a birthday surprise for her dad on her laptop. However, when she opens a folder, she finds secret photos of herself, taken without her knowledge. The discovery devastates her. Furious and in shock, she starts smashing everything in her room. She then spots a hidden camera behind the closet and destroys it too. Elsewhere, the detectives continue questioning Saji. They suggest she may have harmed herself due to overwhelming stress. They show her an iron pipe found in the parking lot, hinting that it may be connected to her case. Taiko is later seen standing on a bridge, contemplating ending her life. She stops and cries out for help, feeling lost and hopeless. The chief tells Sagi that the old lady's tent was in the parking lot and that she saw everything. He suggests Saji hurt herself to escape her stress. Suddenly, Saji collapses, as if struck. Taiko, still overwhelmed, says she wants to disappear. Lil Slugger appears and attacks her. It becomes clear that Taiko had been speaking to her father, Hirokawa, all along. Due to the storm, his house ends up destroyed. In the hospital, Midori finally visits her grandmother. Hirokawa also visits Taiko, who wakes up with no memory, asking who he is. Two detectives are seen with Sagi when they get news about the Taiko case. Right after that, the chief leaves Sagi and goes to visit Taiko. When Saji regains consciousness, she claims Little Slugger appeared to her. The chief later informs Maniwa that Taiko is suffering from memory loss. With no witnesses, the chief decides to treat it as a simple amnesia case and move on. After the chief walks away, Maniwa notices the same old man again. Elsewhere, the chief speaks to Makoto and tells him he is not Little Slugger. He believes Sagi made the whole story up. In response, Makoto insists he is a holy warrior. The chief becomes angry and pushes him. It then becomes clear that each person who was attacked had some deep personal problems. Maniwa questions Harumi, trying to learn if she had any struggles before the attack. She stays silent, but her face shows that something was wrong. Makoto confesses that he only attacked two specific people, Ushi and Hirokawa. Maniwa asks Ushiyama the same question about his mental state before the attack, but Ushiyama doesn't recall anything. Maniwa notes that Ushiyama's case is unusual because he had no known issues at the time. Even though Harumi didn't say much, it seems she was also emotionally troubled. Makoto then says he did it all because he admired Little Slugger. The chief questions how he attacked so many people, but Makoto gives no real answer. This frustrates the chief, and he yells at Makoto, leaving him frightened. Maniwa begins to imagine strange things. In his thoughts, Makoto begs him to take him to the ancient master. In this dreamlike state, Maniwa sees a magic show. The old man performs several odd tricks, including walking through a wall and duplicating himself. Everyone in the audience turns into clones of the same old man. He also sees the old man solving the mysterious equation again. Snapping back to reality, Maniwa questions Hirukawa, asking if his daughter had been going through any problems. Hirukawa then breaks down and cries. Realizing something important, Manwa rushes to tell the chief that Teiko had also been in pain. He connects the timing of her last phone call with the moment Sagi collapsed. This leads him to believe that Little Slugger is one person, but not really. He explains that Little Slugger can appear anywhere and anytime, and worse, he is still out there. The chief tells Maniwa to take a break and rest. Later, Maniwa calls the chief again. He insists they go to Makoto's cell because he believes Makoto was the most emotionally unstable. When they arrive, they see Little Slugger outside the cell. In a flash, he disappears. They rush to check the cell and find Makoto dead. The incident is ruled a suicide. News spreads fast, and many police officers resign due to guilt and failure. After everything, Maniwa starts to think about who is suffering the most now. He suddenly realizes that he himself is carrying the deepest pain. In that moment, Little Slugger attacks him. However, it turns out to be a dream. Maniwa wakes up, walks out, and heads to a radio station. There, he speaks into the microphone and shares a message, warning that Little Slugger can find anyone who is in pain. Later, two men, Fuyubachi and Zebra, are carrying a tied-up plush toy. They meet online and become friends because they share a plan to end their lives. Now, they wait for a third member named Kamome. When she arrives, she turns out to be a young child, which surprises them. Suddenly, they feel uneasy about including her in their plan. Next, Fuyubachi and Zebra try to take their own lives using carbon monoxide and sleeping pills. But just before they do it, Kamome appears again, and a bulldozer destroys the building. She walks out with them, pretends to cry, and says she also wants to die. Even though she is a child, she insists on staying with them. Fuyubachi sends Zebra a message asking about someone named Fox from their group. Zebra remembers him as another person who wants to die. Then, a strange thing happens. None of them have shadows anymore. Fox sends a message saying the fastest way to die is by jumping in front of a train. So the three of them head to the tracks, but just before they can do anything, someone else jumps first and also loses their shadow. Fox then suggests they go to a forest and hang themselves. They follow his advice, but when they try, Fuyubachi and Zebra fall to the ground. Fuyubachi says it might be good if Kamome stays alive. He hopes she will return home if they are gone. A locket lies on the ground. Zebra worries Kamome is still in the forest and may die alone. So, they rush back to find her. Fox sends another message saying he plans to die, but not before doing something big to punish the world. Later, Fuyubachi reveals that Little Slugger kills Fox. It turns out the person the police arrest is actually Fox. Other members in the group begin to feel jealous of him. Someone else in the group chat sends a message saying Little Slugger is one person but also not just one. He can appear anywhere, anytime, especially when someone is in pain. Fuyubachi, Zebra, and Kamome later see Little Slugger attacking someone. Then he tries to attack them too. But instead of being afraid, they smile and welcome him. This reaction confuses Little Slugger, and he runs away. After that, Fuyubachi finally notices they still have no shadows and becomes nervous. He tells Kamome they should go far away, maybe take a bullet train. Kamome gets excited and feels happy again. In the final scene, a group of girls takes a photo together. Fuyubachi, Zebra, and Kamome walk past them and appear in the photo. When the girls check the picture, they become terrified by what they see. Something is wrong, but they do not understand what it is. The strange feeling remains. Meanwhile, several women are sharing different tales about Little Slugger and the strange events connected to him. One woman talks about a boy preparing for exams who becomes extremely stressed. While taking the exam, he sneezes out complex formulas. Soon, These formulas start coming out of his ears, causing him great distress. He rushes to the washroom and tries to eat the formulas, fearing he is losing his knowledge. He cries out for help, and then Little Slugger appears. A teacher enters and finds the boy vomiting formulas and lying helplessly. Next, another woman talks about a difficult relationship between a mother-in-law and her daughter-in-law. The mother-in-law constantly nags and controls the daughter-in-law's life. One night, the daughter-in-law calls her husband for support, but the mother-in-law takes the phone and stops him from coming. Later, the mother-in-law gives the daughter-in-law a birthday gift full of cooking tools. The daughter-in-law snaps and threatens to fight back. Suddenly, the doorbell rings, and when the mother-in-law opens the door, she is attacked by Lil Slugger. This incident makes others wonder if Little Slugger's attack was meant for the daughter-in-law, but happened by mistake. Then, Kamahara shares a strange story about a girl going through artificial fertilization. Something goes wrong during the process, and when doctors check her, they find Little Slugger inside her stomach. The women listening do not believe this unbelievable tale. Another woman speaks about a girl who feels very sick and believes she will die once the leaves on a vine outside her window fall off. A boy draws leaves on the wall to comfort her, but then he sees the ghost of the girl who Little Slugger killed. Shocked, he falls down the stairs. The conversation shifts to more stories about people stressed by Little Slugger's presence. One woman describes a baseball pitcher overwhelmed by his teammates' advice during a game. He then sees Little Slugger batting, which adds to his pressure. Another story is about a boxer who was once fit but became overweight after being fed by Little Slugger. Kamahara talks about a man stranded on an island who claims to have seen Little Slugger in the sea, but others doubt his story. More accounts come up, including one about a politician's assistant attacked by Little Slugger. There is also a tale about scientists trying to launch a rocket, which fails, and Little Slugger appears once again, spreading fear. In the last scene, Kamahara returns home to find her husband badly injured. He blames Little Slugger for his wounds and asks to be taken to the hospital quickly. Instead of feeling worried, Kamahara feels excited. She asks him to explain how Little Slugger attacked him, eager to hear more about the strange figure causing so much trouble. A boy feels very worried about his performance. Suddenly, a monster appears behind him, making him scared at first. Then, he talks calmly to the monster and admits he is just not good at what he does. A character named Moromi tells him he needs some rest. This is part of an anime clip being made by a studio. Saruta, a man at the studio, gets sleepy while working. He finds himself driving a car, but soon gets a call from his boss to hurry to the set because the show will start soon. After the call, he feels sleepy again and wakes up in the office. It seems he dreams about old memories while dozing in the car. The studio gets worried when they hear the writer has been admitted to the hospital. The director of photography suggests leaving, but the production manager reassures everyone and promises to find a replacement. Harumura arrives and gives gifts to the staff. Saruta rests his head and falls asleep again. When he wakes, he's driving the car once more. To stay awake, he slaps himself, but suddenly his eyes open in the office again. His foot hits a plug, shutting down the episode director's computer and causing the loss of all the work. The production manager scolds Saruta harshly and calls him a monkey. Saruta arrives late at the set. His boss says the channel already broadcast a different show because of his delay. Saruta notices he is turning into a sketch and is shocked. Then his eyes open again while driving. The production manager tells the color coordinator that Little Slugger also attacked the tag director. She asks if she can get some animation cuts to work with, but the manager says she should already have them. She denies this and he goes to scold Saruta. He explains that Kaniya promised to bring the files tomorrow. The manager orders him to go to Kaniya's house immediately to get the animation shots or he will be fired. At Kaniya's house, Saruta finds her unconscious and thinks she is just asleep. He takes the files and leaves. Next, he tries to get sketches from the art director, but accidentally folds and ruins the papers. The manager yells at him and tells him to leave. Saruta's eyes open again in the car, where Little Slugger is chasing him. Saruta misses the deadline to deliver the work to the color coordinator. The production manager angrily pushes him and says the coordinator has already died. The manager fires Saruda. Little Slugger is seen sitting in Saruda's car. Meanwhile, the director of photography is killed, and the manager takes the animation tape from him. Saruda suddenly attacks the manager from behind. A woman visits a hospital but cannot afford her treatment. While leaving, she hears news about a new anime series related to Moromi. People are curious about Sagi's opinion, and she gives a hopeful comment. The woman continues her journey home and hears people gossiping about Lil Slugger. They describe him in strange and powerful ways. Once home, she comes face to face with Lil Slugger. However, instead of fear, she calmly expresses that she has changed her mind about dying. She begins to talk about her life with her husband, Hikari, who now works in construction. She shares that she had been sick since childhood and had little hope for survival. Despite this, Hikari accepted her completely. Even though she could not have children, he promised to support her through everything. While she speaks, Lil Slugger seems ready to attack, but chooses to listen instead. She explains how she tried to be the perfect wife, but Hikari became distant over time. This emotional distance upset her deeply. Lil Slugger starts reacting more strongly as her story gets more intense. Eventually, it is revealed that Hikari's growing distance was due to him taking multiple jobs. During one of these jobs, he picks up a Moromi keychain. At work, he runs into Herka, an old friend who used to be a thief. The woman continues telling how one day Hikari praised her cooking, which made her very happy. Slugger begins to destroy the surroundings in frustration. She blames him for ruining everything in her life. Meanwhile, Hikari and Herka have a deep conversation, remembering the past and reflecting on the importance of hope and survival. The woman says that both she and her husband now stand against Lil Slugger. This causes him to laugh wildly. She accuses him of causing her husband to lose his job and removing their reason to live. Still, she insists that they have found the strength to live on. When Lil Slugger attacks, she simply laughs and states that even after all the pain, they still want to live. Hikari, while at work, notices Sagi and a boy nearby. He shows them the Moromi keychain. The woman continues reflecting, mentioning how hospital bills kept increasing, but Hikari remained hopeful. She turns to Lil Slugger and says that while he may think he is helping troubled people, he actually causes more harm. She claims he is not human and that his actions, just like Moromi's purpose, are based on lies. Suddenly, her home falls apart in her imagination and Lil Slugger disappears. Hikari is later seen speaking with Rukai at a beer shop. He remembers a time when his wife made food every day while waiting for him during a long mission. He mentions that becoming a cop was his way of stopping people like Rukai. He notices a matchbox similar to one he had seen before. As he steps outside, the world around him transforms into a crayon-like drawing. He chases a thief, but the thief vanishes. Once again, he finds the Moromi keychain. Meanwhile, a strange man visits the woman's house. She says her husband has not returned yet. The visitor is revealed to be Maniwa. Lil Slugger and Maniwa lock into a brutal fight. Slugger's massive now, way too strong, but Maniwa still slips away. He's in bad shape, barely holding it together. Wounded and worn, Maniwa drags himself to the ancient master for help. The old man drops one final strange line about dancing with Bunny, then passes away. From there, Maniwa heads to Hikari's wife. She tells him her husband's still missing. When he brings up Lil Slugger, she says she called him Moromi. That's when it clicks. Lil Slugger and Moromi aren't two different things. They're the same twisted force. On the TV, Maniwa sees Moromi taking over everything. Fans crowd the streets, buying up merch and lining up for CDs. A reporter even hints that Moromi might be more dangerous than she looks. At the same time, a kid holding a Moromi plush walks into the ancient master's place. Now, Moromi dolls are everywhere in the city. While watching an old interview with Saji, Maniwa spots one of her childhood sketches. It looks just like Lil Slugger. Then out of nowhere, a bunny doll speaks up, echoing the master's last words. Maniwa finds a room packed with dolls. The bunny dolls explain the creator turned into one himself. They say they can feel people's pain. Around him are dolls of past characters. These dolls get what's going on and say they need to work together to stop it. One doll hands Maniwa its glasses. Through them, He sees someone from the past, Tsukiko Sagi, 10 years back. As he tries to leave, his body gives in. A doll heals him. As he walks away, the truth hits him. Moromi used to be Sagi's dog from a decade ago. Elsewhere, Haramoto's driving Sagi. He grumbles about missing deadlines and bad designs. On the road, Sagi sees that strange old woman again. When they stop near her place, Sagi tries to leave. Haramoto snaps, pulls her back, and shouts that she only got famous thanks to Moromi. He calms down, says sorry, but then the car slams into something. Haramoto dies on the spot. Lil Slugger stands nearby. Maniwa makes it to Sagi's father's place. He finds a bat and the dog's old house. Then he leaves. Sagi picks up a call from Maniwa. He says he knows everything about Lil Slugger. He got it all from her father. But before they can talk more, Moromi cuts the line, and Lil Slugger shows up. Moromi tells Sagi to run. Maniwa bursts in and saves her just in time. He raises the bat, which glows in his mind like a blade. He swings, but it's useless. Slugger's wounds heal fast. Moromi opens a strange door that leads to the police chief. Slugger vanishes. After all this, the news spreads. Everything tied to Moromi disappears. Maria comes back. The dollmaker tries crafting something new, but something takes him out. In the end, Hikari's wife lies in bed, asking the old master to bring her husband back. Lost in her thoughts, Sagi finds everything peaceful, but it is just an illusion. The mood quickly changes as a black slime starts covering and destroying the entire city, even swallowing some familiar characters. This strange event reflects a deep emotional breakdown in the world, caused by people's overdependence on Moromi. Meanwhile, inside Makari's imagination, a TV shows Maniwa warning about the danger. He explains that people have become too emotionally attached to Moromi. Since she is gone, Lil Slugger now haunts everyone's minds. He claims both Lil Slugger and Moromi were born from Sagi's imagination. Moromi was once Sagi's pet dog, and her loss led Sagi to create both figures to handle her guilt. Hikari, disturbed, breaks the TV and then sees his wife barely alive in the real world. Misai, his wife, appears in terrible condition. She speaks softly, showing her pain and love. She asks him about returning home, and Moromi tries to push her away. However, Misai insists on reclaiming her husband. At the same time, Sagi turns into a child and calls Hikari her father. Hikari reflects on his past, remembering how he once wished for a daughter. A memory appears of Misai when she was pregnant. Sadly, they lost the baby due to health problems, but Hikari stayed strong for her. Back in the present, Misai says her final goodbye. She fades away peacefully, having found closure. In the illusion, Sagi keeps calling Hikari her father, but he questions everything. Finally, he realizes the entire world is fake. As the illusion shatters, countless Moromi dolls come pouring out. Sagi and the police chief return to reality. Maniwa then tells the truth. Sagi created Lil Slugger in her mind 10 years ago to hide the guilt over her dog's death. Moromi was hit by a car after Sagi let go of the leash due to a stomach cramp. Afraid of punishment, she made up the story of Lil Slugger. The police never found an attacker because there never was one. Her father stayed quiet, knowing fear drove her lie. Suddenly, the black slime returns. Maniwa tries to fight it but fails. Grown Moromi appears and tries to absorb the slime. As Sagi is chased again, Moromi sacrifices herself, exploding and turning back into a real dog. A final memory shows the truth from 10 years ago, when Sagi blamed Lil Slugger out of fear. A shadowy slugger appears from Moromi, and after Sagi apologizes, he disappears. With that, the black slime vanishes, but the city lies in ruins. Time skips 2 years later. The city has been rebuilt, but people still carry unease in their hearts. In the last scene, a man who looks like Maniwa is solving equations, just like in the beginning. When he finishes and looks up, something shocks him, leaving a sense of mystery lingering.